Have you ever experienced that heart-stopping moment when something slips from your grasp and vanishes into the swirling abyss of your toilet? Maybe it was your favorite earring, your phone, or even your car keys. A tiny tragedy that feels uniquely personal, a moment of modern panic we've all shared. But what if I told you that the things Americans have flushed down their toilets go far, far beyond the occasional piece of jewelry or tech gadget? Welcome to a journey through some of the most baffling, shocking, and downright bizarre objects that have found their way into the nation's plumbing. A world where human curiosity, desperation, and sometimes plain old weirdness collide with pipes and sewers in ways you simply won't believe. We're about to dive into stories that sound like they're ripped from urban legends, yet each one is backed by real reports from plumbers, municipal workers, and everyday people who have witnessed the aftermath. From valuables to creatures and creations that defy explanation, this isn't just a list of oddities, it's a reflection of human behavior at its most unexpected. What drives someone to try and flush a smartphone, a pet, or even an entire collection of something you'd never dream could fit? The answers are as varied as the items themselves, and they reveal a side of American life that's equal parts hilarious, shocking, and strangely compelling. This video is your invitation to explore the 32 weirdest things flushed down American toilets, a catalog of plumbing nightmares and moments of sheer disbelief. We'll uncover the stories behind these flushes, the why, the how, and the what were they thinking while meeting the unsung heroes who have to deal with the consequences. So get ready for a wild ride, because by the end, you'll never look at your bathroom the same way again. Whether you're fascinated by human nature, love a good mystery, or just enjoy a tale that makes you shake your head and laugh, you're in for a treat. Let's begin. Now, let's kick things off with an item so perfectly absurd it almost feels like a punchline. But for one unfortunate family, it was a very real, very expensive plumbing emergency. Picture this: a Sunday dinner concludes and there it sits on the counter, a whole, untouched rotisserie chicken. It's been picked at, but the carcass remains largely intact. Instead of wrapping it up for leftovers or simply tossing it in the trash, someone makes a decision that defies all logic. They decide the most convenient method of disposal is a single, definitive flush. The physics of this endeavor are baffling from the very start. We're not talking about a few scraps or a cup of broth. This is a full-sized bird with bones, skin, and a surprising amount of grease. The average toilet drain pipe is only about 4 inches in diameter, while a typical rotisserie chicken is far wider. It simply doesn't fit. The immediate result is a complete and total blockage. The water refuses to drain, and any attempt to plunge it only serves to further compact the poultry plug, creating an airtight seal deep within the pipes. But the real nightmare begins in the hours that follow. Trapped in the dark, warm, wet environment of the plumbing system, that chicken begins to decompose at an accelerated rate. The natural bacteria get to work breaking down the proteins and fats, a process that generates a tremendous amount of gas. This isn't just a clog, it's a biological event. Soon, a foul, unmistakable odor begins to seep back up through the pipes and into the home, a rancid, greasy smell that announces the presence of a very specific problem. When the professional plumber finally arrives, they're not just facing a simple obstruction. They're confronting a biohazard. The removal process is as messy as you might imagine, often involving specialized tools to break apart the sodden, decomposing mass and extract it piece by putrid piece. The cost for this service can easily run into the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, turning a $5 chicken into the most expensive meal that family never even ate. This story stands as a monument to a very particular type of wishful thinking, the belief that a toilet is a magical portal capable of making our problems disappear without a trace, when in reality, it's often just the beginning of them. While the story of the chicken might leave us baffled at the sheer illogic of it all, our next item stems from a place of genuine, albeit misguided, emotion. For countless children and even adults, the passing of a beloved pet goldfish presents a first encounter with loss, and the desire to provide a dignified send-off is powerful. The image is a poignant one, a small, silent ceremony at the bowl, followed by the solemn journey to the bathroom. With a few soft words, the fish is placed into the water and the handle is pushed, granting what many believe to be a burial at sea. It feels like a fitting tribute, a way to return a creature of water back to its elemental home through a convenient, modern river. The painful truth, however, is that this well-intentioned ritual is anything but peaceful for the home's plumbing or the local ecosystem. A goldfish, even a small one, is not designed to disintegrate quickly in water. It is a solid mass of organic material that, much like the chicken, can easily become snagged on any imperfection or buildup within the pipes. It can create a surprising obstruction on its own, or more commonly, it becomes the central anchor point that catches other flushed debris like wipes or paper, forming a clog over days or weeks that seems to come out of nowhere. But the problems don't stop at the property line. If the fish makes it through the home's plumbing, it enters the vast and complex municipal sewer system. Here, it will eventually break down, but in doing so, it contributes to the nutrient load in the wastewater. This might sound trivial for a single fish, but when this practice is repeated by thousands of households, it adds a significant amount of organic matter that water treatment facilities must then work to process and remove. In some areas with older combined sewer systems that can overflow during heavy rain, this organic material may even bypass treatment entirely and flow directly into local rivers and lakes. Perhaps the most startling ecological impact comes from a scenario that sounds like a bizarre urban legend but is frighteningly real: the flush that doesn't end in death. Many a panicked pet owner has attempted to flush a goldfish that is merely sick or seemingly lifeless, only to discover too late that the fish was still very much alive. That goldfish then embarks on an incredible, unlikely journey through the pipes and into the sewer. Against all odds, some of these tenacious fish survive. They find their way into waterways where they can grow to monstrous sizes, far larger than they ever could in a home aquarium. These released pets become invasive species, outcompeting native fish for food and resources, and disrupting delicate local ecosystems in a profound way. So that heartfelt farewell can inadvertently unleash an environmental problem, all born from a moment of sadness and a fundamental misunderstanding of the toilet's purpose. It's a powerful reminder that our most convenient solutions often have unintended consequences far beyond our bathroom walls. Of course, the humble cell phone represents a whole different category of flushed folly, one born not from disposal or ceremony, but from pure, unadulterated distraction. In our hyper-connected world, the bathroom has become an extension of the office, the entertainment center, and the social hub. We're scrolling, typing, and swiping with a focus that makes us forget we're holding a several $100 electronic device directly over a bowl of water. The moment of disaster is both swift and surreal. A slight fumble, a desperate grab at air, and the heart-sinking plunk as it disappears beneath the surface, often followed immediately by the gut-wrenching sound of a flush activated by pure muscle memory or panic. What follows is a frantic, often misguided rescue operation. The immediate reaction is to plunge a bare hand into the toilet water, a social taboo instantly obliterated by the sheer value of the device. If the phone is still visible, it's a race against time. But if it's already been swept into the trapway of the toilet, the desperation truly sets in. Homeowners have been known to hastily turn off the water supply, disconnect the entire toilet from the floor, and carry it outside, turning it upside down in a last-ditch effort to shake the prized possession loose. This chaotic scramble underscores our deep attachment to these devices, They are our lifelines containing our contacts, our memories in photos, and our access to the digital world. The scale of this particular problem is staggering. While exact numbers are elusive for obvious reasons, industry surveys and plumbing associations have estimated that well over 100,000 mobile phones meet their watery demise in American toilets every single year. That's thousands of phones every day, a silent epidemic of modern anxiety happening behind closed bathroom doors. The financial toll is equally dramatic. For the lucky few, if the phone is retrieved instantly and powered off immediately, a thorough drying in a bag of rice might save it. But for the majority, the damage is catastrophic. The combination of water and, let's be frank, the other contents of the bowl creates a corrosive soup that short-circuits delicate electronics and ruins components beyond repair. The cost of replacement or even attempting a repair can easily soar past $500 or $1,000, especially for higher-end models. And that doesn't even include the potential plumbing bill if the phone itself becomes lodged and requires a professional to extract it, adding another few $100s to the cost of that moment of distraction. This makes the flushed cell phone one of the most expensive and common toilet-related mistakes, a perfect storm of high technology meeting one of our most basic plumbing fixtures. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the most dangerous place for our digital lives is right next to us while we're taking care of business. And speaking of panic-induced plunks, few objects combine sheer necessity with absolute frustration quite like a set of car keys. We've all had that moment of patting our pockets in a cold sweat, the dreaded realization that the keys are not where they're supposed to be. Now, imagine that search leading you to the bathroom where you recall briefly setting them on the edge of the sink. Your eyes drift to the toilet bowl, and there, gleaming faintly in the water, is the metallic glint of your entire key fob, your house key, and the one and only copy of your car key. The horror isn't just about the loss of the object itself, but the complete paralysis it causes. Your vehicle is now a giant, immobile metal box in your driveway, and your ability to get to work, run errands, or handle an emergency is instantly severed. The immediate reaction is a scramble that feels both comical and desperate. The same hand that fumbled the keys is now plunging into the water, hoping against hope that the flush wasn't completed. If the keys are still in the bowl, it's a reprieve. But if that lever was pushed, even by a stray elbow, the situation escalates from a simple retrieval to a high-stakes salvage operation. Homeowners have been known to fish around in the toilet's trap with coat hangers, creating a makeshift grappling hook in a frantic attempt to snag the key ring, often only succeeding in pushing the keys further into the plumbing maze. This is where the irony becomes almost poetic. A tiny 2-ounce object, insignificant in mass, can bring an entire household to a standstill. The cost of a replacement key, especially for a modern car with a programmed electronic fob, can be astronomical, often exceeding $300 or $400. But that's only if the keys are truly gone. The true dilemma arises from the uncertainty. Are they lodged just out of sight, or have they traveled to a place from which they can never return? This doubt fuels a desperate need to know, often leading to the most extreme measure, voluntarily dismantling the household plumbing. The decision to remove the entire toilet from the floor is not made lightly. It's a messy, unpleasant job that most people would happily pay to avoid. But the potential reward, retrieving those keys and avoiding a massive replacement fee, is a powerful motivator. So the homeowner becomes an amateur plumber, turning off the water supply, unscrewing the bolts, and breaking the wax seal to lift the toilet straight up. There, resting in the bend of the pipe, they might just find their prize, a soggy, somewhat worse for wear set of keys, now smelling faintly of odor sewage. It's a victory, but a Pyrrhic one, celebrated with a thorough disinfecting shower for both the keys and the rescuer. This story encapsulates a very modern form of torture, where a split second of carelessness with a mundane object can trigger a chain reaction of hassle, expense, and a very humbling encounter with the inner workings of your own home. But while keys and phones represent a panic born of inconvenience, few objects carry the emotional weight of a wedding ring accidentally meeting its fate. This isn't just about losing a valuable piece of metal, it's about losing a profound symbol of love, commitment, and shared history. The scenarios that lead to this particular disaster are often heartbreakingly mundane. A spouse removes the ring to apply lotion or wash their hands, placing it on the edge of the sink for just a moment. A quick movement, the brush of a sleeve, and the faint clink signals a catastrophe far greater than any clog. In other cases, the ring is dropped into the bowl while cleaning it with chemicals, the very act of care leading to its potential loss. The immediate emotional response is a tidal wave of pure dread, far surpassing the frustration of a lost key. This is a physical manifestation of a vow, a circle of precious metal that represents years, sometimes decades of partnership. Its loss feels like a terrible omen, a personal failure that can induce a state of near paralysis. The frantic search that follows is charged with a desperate energy, fueled by the fear of having to confess to one's partner that you've literally flushed a cornerstone of your marriage down the drain. This is where the story often shifts from a personal tragedy to an all-hands-on-deck rescue mission. If the flush is suspected but not confirmed, the first call isn't to a plumber, it's to the local water reclamation district or public works department. Pleading calls are made, explaining the situation to understanding and often bemused municipal workers. They know the clock is ticking. If they're lucky, the ring is heavy and may have settled in a nearby pipe junction or a calm spot in the sewer main, not yet swept away into the vast, impenetrable network. In remarkable cases, teams have been known to send specialized cameras into the pipes, scanning for the glint of gold or platinum. If they locate it, the operation becomes surgical. They might divert the flow of sewage temporarily or send in a retrieval claw on a long cable, all to recover a single, tiny object from a river of waste. The moment it's lifted out, caked in unthinkable filth, is a moment of pure, unadulterated triumph. The cleaning and disinfecting process that follows is a ritual in itself, a restoration not just of the ring but of peace of mind. These recovery stories, though rare, stand as testaments to the lengths we will go to reclaim what truly matters, and to the unsung heroes in our cities who understand that sometimes their job isn't just about managing waste, but about rescuing little pieces of people's hearts from the darkness. But perhaps no item combines instant regret with such profound personal inconvenience, quite like a set of dentures taking an unexpected plunge. This isn't a story of intentional disposal, but of simple, heartbreaking accident, often occurring among our most vulnerable populations. Picture a late-night trip to the bathroom in a quiet retirement home. An elderly resident, perhaps a bit unsteady, leans over the sink to clean their teeth or to take a drink of water. A sudden cough, a moment of dizziness, or just a simple slip of the fingers, and that vital set of false teeth, their ability to eat, to speak clearly, to smile with confidence, is sent tumbling from their grasp, landing in the bowl with a soft plastic clatter. In the ensuing panic and fumble to retrieve them, a hand might accidentally hit the flush lever, or the resident, in their distress, might believe flushing is the only way to clear the bowl for retrieval, inadvertently sending their most important possession on a one-way trip. The immediate aftermath is a silence filled with sheer horror, followed by a deep and profound embarrassment. For many seniors, dentures are not just a convenience, they are a fundamental part of their identity and independence. Losing them means struggling to chew solid food, potentially resorting to a diet of soft, pureed meals that can impact both nutrition and dignity. It means mumbled speech that can lead to social withdrawal and isolation, as the fear of being misunderstood or laughed at becomes overwhelming. The emotional toll is immense, transforming a simple mechanical accident into a crisis of self-reliance. Then comes the daunting reality of replacement. Unlike a ring or a phone, this isn't an item that can be fished out and simply cleaned. Once they've journeyed into the sewer, they are almost certainly gone for good. And the cost to replace them is staggering. A new quality set of custom-fitted dentures is a major dental procedure, requiring multiple appointments for molds, fittings, and adjustments. The financial burden can easily soar into the thousands of dollars, a massive and often unexpected expense for someone on a fixed income. For those in managed care facilities, this incident triggers a complex chain of calls to family members, insurance companies, and dental offices, all to explain the deeply personal and humiliating story of how grandma's teeth went down the toilet. These stories are recounted by plumbers and nursing home staff with a mix of sympathy and disbelief, a testament to how a single moment can unravel so much. It's a uniquely poignant entry on our list, moving beyond the realm of bizarre curiosity into something far more human. It reminds us that the things we flush, whether by accident or design, are often tangled up with our most basic needs, our vanity, and our fragile sense of normalcy. The loss is measured not just in dollars, but in comfort and confidence, a quiet crisis that happens behind closed doors. Imagine the shock of settling onto your toilet seat, half asleep, only to feel an unexpected, cool, and sinuous movement against your skin. This isn't a nightmare, it's a reality that has played out in bathrooms across America, where live snakes have emerged from the porcelain depths. These reptilian encounters typically fall into two terrifying categories. The first involves a pet snake, often a constrictor like a ball python or corn snake, that has managed a daring escape from its enclosure. Seeking dark, confined spaces that mimic their natural burrows, a curious and exploratory snake will find the small, damp, and hidden environment of a home's plumbing pipe through a cracked seal or a loose vent cap on the roof. The second, and perhaps more frightening scenario, involves a wild snake simply finding its way in from the outdoors, slithering up through broken sewer lines or septic tank vents in search of water or prey. The human reaction to this discovery is understandably pure, unadulterated panic. It's a primal response to a deeply unsettling intrusion into our most private space. The immediate, gut-level instinct isn't to calmly usher the creature out, it's to make it disappear instantly and permanently. In that heart-pounding moment, the flush handle represents the fastest possible solution. The thought process is tragically straightforward. Water carries things away, so water will carry this problem away. This leads to a frantic, repeated pushing of the lever, hoping the vortex will suck the animal down and out of sight. This act of panic, however, is fraught with peril for both the homeowner and the animal. A snake, especially a larger constrictor, is not a simple piece of waste. Its muscular body can easily become jammed in the narrow pipe, creating an immediate and total blockage. Now, instead of just a snake in the bowl, you have a trapped, stressed, and potentially injured snake causing a sewer backup into your home. For the snake, the experience is a death sentence. The force of the water can cause severe trauma, and being submerged in water mixed with human waste and harsh chemicals leads to a slow, agonizing death from poisoning or suffocation if it doesn't drown immediately. The ecological consequences of this drastic solution can also be significant. If the snake is a non-native pet species and it somehow survives the horrific journey through the pipes and treatment plants, it could be introduced into a local waterway. This is how invasive species become established, outcompeting native wildlife and disrupting fragile ecosystems. Even a native snake flushed from one region to another can introduce parasites or diseases to a new population. The seemingly simple act of flushing a live animal away is never simple. It's a choice that ripples outward, turning a moment of private fear into a potential public hazard. This story stands as a stark reminder that our plumbing is not a portal to another dimension, but a connected system that demands respect and a much calmer head in a crisis. Of all the items that find their way into the plumbing, few are as emblematic of childhood curiosity as the humble action figure. This isn't a story of disposal or panic, but one of pure, unadulterated experimentation. In the mind of a young child, the toilet isn't a piece of sanitation hardware. It's a whirlpool, a vortex, a mysterious portal to another world. That Batman figure isn't just a toy, it's a deep-sea explorer preparing to brave the unknown depths, or a space hero launching into a swirling galaxy. The decision to send it on its mission is made with a sense of gravity and wonder, a tiny hand releasing its grip to see what magnificent journey will unfold. The flush is the ignition sequence, and the anticipation is palpable until the reality of physics sets in. The problem, of course, is that the average toilet drain is a master of illusion. While it can create a powerful suction capable of whisking away water and waste, it is not designed for solid, non-biodegradable objects with awkward dimensions. An action figure with its wide shoulders, outstretched arms, and various accessories is the perfect key for jamming the lock of your home's plumbing. It doesn't slide gracefully down, it tumbles into the trap, the U-shaped bend at the base of the toilet, and immediately gets wedged sideways. The immediate result is a partial or complete blockage. Water begins to drain slowly, or worse, it starts to rise perilously close to the rim with every subsequent flush, a sure sign that a superhero is currently losing a battle deep within the porcelain fortress. When a plumber is called to the scene, they often know what they're dealing with before they even arrive. The parents describe the slow drain and perhaps mention a suddenly missing favorite toy. The extraction process becomes a peculiar archaeological dig, using a specialized tool called an auger or a closet snake, a long, flexible cable with a corkscrew-like end. The plumber carefully feeds it down the pipe. The goal isn't to push the toy through, which could send it further into the main sewer line and create a much larger problem, but to hook it and drag it back up. This can be a delicate operation. Pull too hard and the plastic might break, leaving a limb or a head behind to cause future issues. Success is met with a triumphant pull, retrieving a soggy, somewhat worse for wear Batman or Barbie from the depths. These retrievals are some of the more light-hearted calls plumbers receive, a welcome respite from the biohazards of decomposing food or the high-stakes recovery of wedding rings. They often end with the triumphant return of the toy to a very relieved, if slightly embarrassed child, and a valuable lesson learned for the entire family about what the toilet is truly for. It's a bizarre, yet strangely universal, rite of passage in American households, a small price to pay for a child's imagination, and a story that will be told and laughed about for years to come. It seems like a logical, if not drastic, experiment, testing the limits of what a toilet can handle. After all, toilet paper is specifically designed to break down in water, right? This line of thinking has led more than a few people to conduct a test of sheer volume, taking a full, untouched roll cardboard tube and all, and sending it on a one-way trip. The reasoning is a flawed but understandable chain of logic. One or two sheets dissolve easily, so a whole roll should, in theory, simply vanish in a larger, more impressive cloud of disintegration. The reality, of course, is a spectacular and immediate failure of basic plumbing principles. The moment the flush is activated, the problem begins. The powerful rush of water quickly saturates the outer layers of the roll, causing them to swell and expand at an alarming rate. But the inner layers, protected by the now soggy outer ones and the rigid cardboard tube at the center, remain mostly dry. This creates a dense, expanding mass of pulp that has nowhere to go. The average toilet drain, with its narrow, twisting pipes, is simply no match for this sudden, engineered logjam. Instead of breaking apart, the roll acts like a plug, swelling to several times its original size and creating a perfect, watertight seal inside the pipe. The toilet bowl will either not drain at all, or it will drain very slowly before quickly refilling to the brim, a clear sign that a major obstruction is lurking just out of sight. What makes this particular clog so tenacious is its composition. A plunger is almost useless against it. The standard cup plunger relies on creating pressure to push a solid or semi-solid obstruction through the pipe. But this swollen mass of paper is too large and too soft. The force of the plunge is absorbed like punching a wet pillow. It simply compresses slightly before springing back, refusing to budge. An amateur might try to break it up with a coat hanger, but this often just shreds the outer layers, making the pulpy mass even denser and more difficult to clear. The cardboard tube at the center adds another layer of frustration, providing a solid core that tools can snag on but rarely break. This leaves the homeowner with only one real solution: calling a professional. For the plumber, this is a relatively straightforward but messy job. The first step is usually to remove the entire toilet from the floor to gain direct access to the clogged pipe. What they pull out is a dripping, monstrous version of the original item, a heavy, bloated, disgusting paper balloon that vaguely resembles its former self. The cleanup is extensive, and the bill for this lesson in physics and patience can easily run into the hundreds of dollars. It's a powerful and expensive reminder that while toilet paper is designed to be flushable, it is not designed to be flushed all at once. The toilet is a precision tool for waste removal, not a magician's hat for making our problems disappear in one grand, ill-advised gesture. While the loss of a single key is a logistical headache, imagine the sheer, stomach-dropping dread of watching your entire financial and personal identity vanish in an instant. This is the unique horror of the flushed wallet, an event that usually begins with a simple, almost unnoticeable mistake. You've just used a public restroom, perhaps in a busy airport or a restaurant, and in the process of adjusting your clothing, your wallet stuffed with cash, credit cards, your driver's license, and maybe even your passport slips silently from your back pocket. You don't hear a thing over the sound of the flushing mechanism. It's only when you're at the counter trying to pay for your meal that you pat your pocket and feel the devastating emptiness. The realization crashes over you. Your entire life was in that pocket, and it's now churning through pipes you can't even see. The immediate panic is multifaceted. It's not just about the physical cash, though losing a few $100s is painful enough. It's the terrifying domino effect that follows. Every card needs to be cancelled immediately. You're not just calling one bank, you're calling a half-dozen different institutions, reciting numbers from memory if you're lucky, trying to prove your identity to automated systems without any ID in front of you. You have to report your driver's license gone, which means a trip to the DMV is now in your immediate future. If there was a social security card or a passport in there, the crisis level escalates to a DEFCON 1, involving government agencies, fraud alerts, and the sickening knowledge that your most sensitive information is now floating through a sewer system, completely unprotected. Yet, against all conceivable odds, some of these stories have surprisingly happy endings. They require a perfect storm of luck, timing, and the kindness of strangers. The wallet must be heavy enough to not get immediately swept into the main sewer line, perhaps catching on a small ledge or settling in a quiet sump within the building's own plumbing. Then it has to be discovered by a maintenance worker or a plumber who is not only thorough but incredibly honest. These recovery tales are the stuff of urban legend, but they happen. A janitor, alerted to a slow-draining toilet, uses a drain snake and pulls up a sopping, foul-smelling leather billfold. Instead of tossing it aside, they open it, find a business card or a waterlogged license, and make the call. The moment that call connects is pure disbelief for the owner. They've already grieved the loss, accepted their fate, and endured hours on the phone. To hear that a complete stranger has not only found it but is willing to return it feels like a miracle. The reunion is never glamorous. The wallet is invariably ruined. The paper money is an unsalvageable pulp, and the smell is something that lingers both on the object and in the memory. But the plastic cards are often intact, and most importantly, the identification is saved. The relief is immense, a sudden cancellation of weeks of bureaucratic nightmare. This rare outcome transforms a story of sheer misfortune into a heartwarming testament to basic human decency, proving that even in the most foul and unexpected places, there's still a chance for a little bit of grace. Now consider an object so small, so seemingly insignificant, that its loss might go completely unnoticed until the moment it's desperately needed. For those who rely on a hearing aid, this tiny device is a lifeline to the world, a sophisticated piece of technology that amplifies everything from a loved one's voice to the subtle sounds of daily life. Its removal is part of a nightly routine, a careful placement on the bathroom counter next to the sink before washing up for bed. But in that vulnerable moment, a slight bump, a misplaced towel, or a simple fumble can send it skittering directly into the open toilet bowl below. The sheer miniaturization of modern hearing aids designed for discretion and comfort now becomes their greatest liability, making them the perfect size for a disastrous plunge. The immediate reaction is a race against time, a frantic search through water that feels utterly surreal. Unlike a set of keys or a phone, a hearing aid is not just valuable, it is medically necessary. The panic isn't merely about the cost, but about the immediate and profound isolation its loss creates. The world becomes muffled, conversations turn into frustrating guesswork, and a fundamental piece of the user's independence is suddenly gone. This desperation fuels a gamble that would be unthinkable in any other circumstance, plunging a bare hand into the toilet bowl, not just to retrieve the device, but to do so before the internal, irreplaceable electronics are destroyed by a complete immersion. If the flush hasn't been activated, there's a slim chance of salvation through immediate and meticulous drying. But if the lever was pushed, either by accident during the retrieval attempt or by another member of the household unaware of the crisis, the situation becomes dire. These devices are not waterproof. The complex microprocessors, microphones, and speakers are instantly exposed to water contaminated with waste and cleaning chemicals, leading to almost certain short-circuiting and corrosion. Even if retrieved seconds later, the damage is often already done. The financial impact is staggering. A single, high-quality hearing aid can easily cost between $2,000 and $3,000, and many people wear two, doubling that figure. Most insurance plans, including Medicare, offer little to no coverage for hearing aids for adults, classifying them as elective equipment rather than essential medical devices. This means the cost falls almost entirely on the individual, a devastating out-of-pocket expense that can wipe out savings or simply be impossible to afford for those on fixed incomes. The loss is compounded by the time it takes to get a replacement. It requires a new appointment with an audiologist for fitting and programming, leaving the individual in a state of auditory deprivation for days or even weeks. This story underscores a cruel irony of modern medical technology. The very thing designed to connect you to the world can, in a single careless moment, be lost to it in the most undignified way, leaving behind a heavy silence and an even heavier financial burden. The journey of a Barbie doll from a beloved toy to a plumbing nightmare is a tale of both childhood curiosity and outright mischief. For a child, the act might be born from a place of innocent experimentation. A Barbie isn't just a doll, she's an explorer, a deep-sea diver, or an astronaut braving a swirling vortex. The bathroom becomes a launch pad for imagination, and the powerful flush is the rocket engine destined to send her on a grand adventure. The child's intention isn't to cause damage but to witness a spectacle, a magical disappearance that seems far more exciting than simply throwing a broken toy in the trash. In other, more mischievous cases, an older sibling or a teenager might flush a doll as a prank, thinking the resulting clog will be a hilarious inconvenience for a parent or a roommate, vastly underestimating the scale of the problem they're about to create. The moment the flush is activated, the elegant physics of the toilet's design meets the brutal reality of Barbie's anatomy. While she may be fashion-forward, her form is plumbing's worst enemy. Her rigid, solid plastic torso, long unbending legs, and permanently poised arms are engineered for style, not for navigating tight, twisting pipes. She doesn't flow with the water. She immediately becomes a projectile, rocketing into the narrow trapway of the toilet where she instantly jams, turning her into the world's worst-shaped plug. Her head, with its distinctive high ponytail or long hair, acts as a perfect anchor, catching on any tiny imperfection in the pipe's interior. Within seconds, the water that was meant to carry her away begins to back up, rising ominously in the bowl with every subsequent desperate flush attempt. What makes a Barbie clog so particularly tenacious is her stubborn refusal to break apart. Unlike a roll of toilet paper that will eventually turn to pulp, Barbie is made of durable, non-biodegradable plastic. A standard plunger is utterly useless as the suction cup cannot get a proper seal around her awkwardly wedged body. The force only serves to wedge her more tightly into place. Amateur solutions, like trying to dislodge her with a coat hanger, usually result in a scratched and battered doll being pushed even further down the line, potentially moving the blockage from the toilet's internal trap to the larger, more critical drain pipe in the wall or floor. This transforms a simple toilet clog into a full-scale household plumbing emergency. The professional solution is both straightforward and undignified for the fashion icon. A plumber will typically have to remove the entire toilet from the floor to gain direct access to the pipe. Using a specialized retrieval tool, they will grapple with the doll, often having to twist and turn her rigid body to navigate the curves she originally jammed in. The retrieval is a soggy, sorry affair, a once glamorous doll now covered in unthinkable muck, her smile seeming almost ironic given the several $100 repair bill she has just generated. This story serves as a perfect metaphor for the clash between childhood wonder and adult responsibility, a reminder that the toilet is a practical utility, not a magical portal, and that some experiments have a very messy and very expensive conclusion. Now, if the thought of a snake was enough to send shivers down your spine, consider an even more common, and for many, a more instinctively revolting intruder, a live mouse or rat surfacing in your toilet bowl. This is a scenario that plays on a deep-seated fear of disease and filth, an invasion of our most private sanctuary by one of history's most notorious pests. The discovery is rarely gradual. It's a sudden, shocking glimpse of movement where there should be none, a small, wet, scrambling creature looking desperately for an escape route from the porcelain prison it somehow found itself in. The immediate, visceral reaction for most people is not compassion or curiosity, it's pure, unadulterated revulsion, followed by a desperate need to make it disappear instantly. In that heart-pounding moment of panic, the flush handle represents the easiest, most immediate solution. It feels clean, distant, and final. The logic, however flawed, is that water carries waste away, and this is the ultimate form of waste. But a living rodent is not waste. It is a resilient, agile, and terrified animal. The force of a standard residential toilet flush is simply not powerful enough to overcome a rat's powerful instinct to survive. Instead of being sucked down, the animal will often frantically paddle against the current, clawing at the slick sides of the bowl to keep its head above the swirling water. The person flushing, seeing the creature fighting to stay afloat, might flush again and again in an escalating cycle of panic, only succeeding in terrifying the animal and wasting hundreds of gallons of water. This is where the ethical concerns become impossible to ignore. Choosing to flush a live animal is choosing to subject it to a prolonged, traumatic, and almost certainly fatal ordeal. If it is somehow pulled into the pipes, it will not die quickly. It will face drowning or the crushing pressure of being forced through narrow pipes, or a slow death from poisoning from the chemicals and raw sewage in the system. This is a profoundly inhumane way to deal with any creature, regardless of how much we might fear or dislike it. Beyond the cruelty, it's also an exercise in futility. A rat's body, even a small one, is far too large and solid for a residential plumbing system to handle. It will almost inevitably become lodged, creating a horrific clog that now includes a decomposing carcass. The resulting backup and smell will be unimaginable, turning a moment of squeamish panic into a sustained biohazard situation in your own home. The far more humane and practical solution is one that requires conquering that initial wave of disgust. Simply placing a heavy bucket or a lid over the toilet bowl to contain the animal while you contact animal control or a pest removal service is the responsible choice. These professionals have the tools and experience to remove the intruder safely and without causing it unnecessary suffering. This bizarre and creepy scenario serves as a stark lesson in pausing before we act on pure instinct. The toilet is a tool for sanitation, not a weapon for pest control, and using it as one rarely ends well for anyone involved, especially not for the terrified creature caught in the crossfire of our own panic. Now, from a doll designed to be seen to an item designed to be nearly invisible, we shift our focus to something you can barely even feel, a set of contact lenses. For the millions who wear them, the daily ritual of popping them in and out is second nature, a quick task performed over the bathroom sink without a second thought. But that very habit is where disaster strikes. A lens, still perched delicately on a fingertip, can be dislodged by a sudden sneeze, a splash of water, or simply a moment of clumsiness. It's so small and lightweight that you might not even see or hear it fall, vanishing into the sink drain or, worse, directly into the toilet bowl below. In a frantic attempt to rinse a lens that's dropped into a seemingly clean sink, many people will turn on the tap, inadvertently washing the tiny disc straight down the drain, believing it's just water and therefore harmless. The immediate personal consequence is minor frustration and the expense of replacing a single lens, which is annoying enough. But the journey of that lost contact is where the real, much larger story begins. Unlike toilet paper, which is designed to break down, contact lenses are engineered for durability and stability. They are made of sophisticated hydrogels and silicones that are incredibly resilient, allowing them to hold moisture and maintain their shape against the friction of your eyelid all day long. These properties make them fantastic for vision correction, but absolutely terrible for our plumbing and water systems. Their small, flexible size allows them to easily bypass the traps in our sinks and toilets, sailing through home pipes without causing a clog. This is why we rarely hear stories of plumbers retrieving contacts. They simply vanish from our sight, giving us the false impression that the problem has disappeared. But they have to end up somewhere. That journey culminates at municipal wastewater treatment plants, and this is where these tiny, transparent discs reveal their sinister side. The massive filtering systems at these facilities are designed to capture solid waste, but they are calibrated for things like toilet paper and organic matter. A soft, flexible contact lens can slip through these screens, remaining intact. Even if they are captured in the solid waste sludge, they pose a new problem. That sludge is often repurposed as agricultural fertilizer, meaning these non-biodegradable plastic lenses are then spread across farmland, where they will persist for decades, eventually breaking down into smaller and smaller particles. This is the heart of the emerging crisis. When lenses do make it through the treatment process, they are discharged with the treated water back into rivers and lakes. Here, exposed to the elements and the natural agitation of the water, they begin to fragment. They don't truly biodegrade, they photodegrade, slowly breaking into microplastics, pieces smaller than 5 millimeters. These microplastics are then consumed by the smallest organisms in the food chain, like plankton, and begin a process called bioaccumulation, where the plastic concentration increases as it moves up to larger fish, birds, and potentially even humans who consume seafood. The lenses themselves can also absorb toxic pollutants and pesticides from the water, turning them into tiny, poisonous pills for any marine life that mistakes them for food. Recent scientific studies have sounded the alarm on this specific form of pollution, estimating that billions of contact lenses are flushed in the United States alone each year, contributing a significant amount of microplastic waste to our environment. It's a powerful example of a massive problem originating from millions of tiny, individual actions, each one seeming too insignificant to matter. The solution, however, is beautifully simple and rests entirely in our hands. Instead of flushing them down the toilet or washing them down the sink, used contacts should be placed in the regular trash with other solid waste, where they will ideally go to a landfill. Even better, several major manufacturers have started free recycling programs where you can mail your used lenses and their blister packs to be repurposed into other plastic products. This small change in our daily routine, taking that extra second to dispose of them properly, is a direct line to protecting our waterways. It proves that even the smallest objects, the ones we can barely see, can have an enormous impact, turning a simple act of convenience into a conscious choice for the planet's health. While we might picture a slimy chicken or a stubborn doll causing the worst clogs, sometimes the most surprising blockages come from items we consider utterly natural and harmless. Take the simple apple. It's the picture of health, a symbol of freshness. So what could possibly go wrong with disposing of a core or perhaps a slightly bruised whole fruit down the toilet? It seems almost logical to some. It's biodegradable, right? It'll just break down and wash away. This line of thinking leads to a decision that feels almost virtuous, a form of composting via plumbing. But the journey of an apple through the sewer system is a story of biological betrayal, where nature's processes work against the man-made environment in a spectacularly messy way. The immediate problem is one of simple geometry. An average toilet drain is only about 4 inches wide. A standard apple is, you guessed it, roughly 3 to 4 inches in diameter. It doesn't gently slip down. It lodges itself with a perfect, frustrating snugness in the toilet's internal trap, the curved pipe designed to hold water and prevent sewer gases from entering the home. That apple becomes a perfect plug. The first flush might seem successful, with the powerful suction dragging the fruit out of sight, but the celebration is short-lived. Within minutes, the bowl refuses to drain properly, or worse, it begins to fill back up with water from a deeper, now completely blocked part of the system. The initial frustration is palpable. How could a piece of fruit, something so soft and edible, possibly beat modern plumbing? The answer lies in decomposition, but not in the way the flusher hoped. Trapped in the dark, wet, and warm environment of the sewer pipe, the apple doesn't just melt away. It begins to break down, but this process is its own kind of weapon. The apple's skin and flesh soften and swell with moisture, expanding its mass and making it an even more effective obstruction. As bacteria go to work, they produce gases as a byproduct. This generated pressure builds up behind the apple plug, further compacting it into place and often forcing foul-smelling sewer gas back up through the toilet and into the home, creating an unpleasant atmosphere that hints at the problem festering below. But the real chaos begins if that apple manages to make it past the home's plumbing and into the main municipal sewer line. Here, it joins a river of other waste, but it's far from alone. An apple core is a treasure trove of sugars and nutrients in an otherwise hostile environment. This scent acts as a powerful beacon for all manner of sewer dwellers, most notably rats. Rodents in the sewer system are constant scavengers, and a decaying apple is a high-calorie feast. They will gnaw and claw at it, but they rarely consume the entire thing at once. Instead, they break it apart, and those smaller, sticky pieces then get carried further down the line, where they can act like glue, catching other debris like wipes, grease, and hygiene products to form massive, complex blockages known as fatbergs. In this way, a single apple core or fruit can become the nucleus of a much larger problem for an entire community. It can contribute to a sewer main backup that affects entire neighborhoods, leading to street closures, costly emergency repairs for the city, and in severe cases, even raw sewage backing up into basements. What started as a seemingly innocent act of convenience in one bathroom becomes a public nuisance and an expensive lesson in infrastructure management. It's a stark reminder that the sewer system is not a compost bin. It's a highly engineered, delicate ecosystem of pipes and pumps designed for specific materials. Flushing an apple is a gamble that the natural world will play by our rules, when in reality, it often plays a much longer and far messier game. It's a moment of pure, almost cinematic misfortune that plays out in slow motion. You're leaning over the toilet, perhaps feeling a bit unwell or simply cleaning, when your prescription eyeglasses, perched precariously on the bridge of your nose, choose that exact second to surrender to gravity. They slide off, and in a desperate, fumbling attempt to catch them, you only succeed in batting them directly into the water below. The immediate reaction is a unique blend of shock and visceral frustration. These aren't just an accessory, they are quite literally your window to the world. Without them, everything beyond your nose is a blurry, indistinct mess. In that heart-sinking moment, rationality often takes a backseat to a panicked, impulsive thought. If the water is gone, the problem is gone. The flush handle is pushed in a quick, decisive act of wishful thinking. This decision, however, is a catastrophic miscalculation of both physics and optics. Eyeglasses are not designed for hydrodynamic travel. Their rigid frames and large, flat lenses are the absolute antithesis of a streamlined object. The powerful suction of the flush might pull them out of the bowl, but their journey is measured in inches, not feet. They immediately become jammed in the toilet's internal trap, the U-bend designed to prevent sewer gas from entering the home. The frames twist and the lenses act like sails against the current, creating an instant and total blockage. The water that was meant to carry your problem away now has nowhere to go, rising back up the bowl to announce that your attempt to solve the issue has only made it infinitely worse. Now you're faced with a dual crisis, a plumbing emergency and a personal sensory deprivation. The world is suddenly and disorientingly blurry, making the already difficult task of dealing with a clogged toilet feel nearly impossible. Reading the number for a plumber on your phone becomes a challenge. Simply moving around your own home without bumping into furniture requires extra care. This immediate loss of independence is profoundly frustrating, a constant reminder of the mistake with every fuzzy step you take. The desperation to see clearly again can lead to some extremely ill-advised amateur plumbing. The thought of that $300 or $800 pair of glasses sitting just a foot or two away is a powerful motivator to try and retrieve them yourself, often resulting in a messy and ultimately futile exercise with a coat hanger that only serves to scratch the lenses or push the glasses deeper into the plumbing system. When the professional arrives, the diagnosis is usually swift. They've seen it all before. The extraction process is a delicate one. The goal is to retrieve the glasses without shattering the lenses or damaging the toilet's porcelain. Success means pulling out a dripping, foul-smelling, but structurally intact pair of spectacles, but the victory is hollow. Even after a thorough and vigorous disinfecting cleaning, the idea of putting those particular frames back on your face is a psychological hurdle many cannot overcome. This leads to the second and often more painful part of the ordeal: replacement. Replacing prescription eyeglasses is not like buying a new pair of sunglasses. It requires a visit to an optometrist or optician, which you now have to navigate with significantly impaired vision. You need your prescription details, which you likely can't read without the very glasses you just lost. If your prescription is old, you'll probably need a full new eye exam just to get an updated script, adding time and expense. Then comes the selection of new frames and lenses, a process that can take days or even weeks for the glasses to be made. The total cost can easily soar into the hundreds of dollars, all because of a single split-second slip. This story transcends a simple clog. It's a cascade of inconvenience that impacts your safety, your independence, and your wallet, a stark lesson that some problems cannot simply be flushed away. And from the blurry world of lost eyeglasses, we descend into the miniature mayhem of a Hot Wheels car, a tiny terror that proves size is no obstacle when it comes to plumbing disasters. In households with young children, particularly little boys armed with imaginations as powerful as a V8 engine, the bathroom transforms into a Grand Prix racetrack, a car wash, or a treacherous canyon. That small, perfectly scaled metal car isn't just a toy. It's a vehicle for adventure, and the toilet bowl, with its shimmering water and mysterious vortex, presents the ultimate finish line or a bottomless pit to be conquered. The decision to send it over the edge is made with a sense of spectacle, a tiny hand launching its favorite racer to see if it can make the incredible journey. The physics of this experiment fail almost immediately. While a Hot Wheels car is small, its design is a masterpiece of terrible plumbing engineering. Unlike a smooth, round object that might theoretically roll through a pipe, this toy is all hard edges, awkward angles, and protruding parts. The moment it hits the water and the flush is activated, its fate is sealed. The powerful suction might pull it through the opening of the trapway, but its journey is brutally short. The car will inevitably flip sideways, its solid metal axles and wheels catching on the slightest imperfection in the porcelain or pipe. It becomes a perfect, immovable keystone, lodged in the narrowest point of the toilet's internal architecture. What makes a Hot Wheels car such a formidable opponent for a plunger is its rigid construction. This isn't a doll that might bend or an apple that will soften. This is solid die-cast metal and tough plastic. A standard plunger is utterly useless as the rubber cup cannot compress the unyielding object. The force only serves to wedge it more tightly into its new home. A parent's desperate attempt to fish it out with a wire coat hanger often results in scratching the toilet's surface or, worse, pushing the car just far enough to clear the toilet's own trap but sending it down into the larger waste pipe in the wall or floor. This doesn't solve the problem, it merely relocates and escalates it, transforming a simple toilet clog into a full-bore household plumbing emergency that threatens sinks and showers too. For the professional plumber, this retrieval is a familiar puzzle. The telltale signs are a toilet that won't drain and a parent's mention of a missing favorite toy. The solution almost always involves removing the entire toilet from the floor to access the pipe directly. Using a specialized retrieval tool, the plumber will navigate the curves, often feeling the distinct clink of metal on metal as they snag the axle or a wheel. The extraction is a moment of triumph, pulling a dripping, slightly soiled champion of the indoor Grand Prix back into the light. The cleanup is followed by the triumphant return of the car to a very relieved, if sheepish, young driver and a stern family lesson about the difference between a racetrack and a toilet. It's a bizarre yet universal rite of passage, a small price to pay for a child's boundless creativity, and a story that will be retold for years to come as a testament to the day a $1 toy nearly required a $1,000 repair. It seems like a perfectly natural conclusion, a quick and tidy solution to a piece of organic waste. You finish the banana, that healthy and convenient snack, and you're left holding the peel. The trash can is steps away, but the toilet is right there. The reasoning feels almost sound. It's just fruit, it's biodegradable, it will break down and wash away with all the other, well, waste. So with a simple drop and a push of the handle, you send it on its way, believing you've chosen the most efficient method of disposal. But this act of convenience is a profound misunderstanding of how plumbing and decomposition actually work in the dark, confined world of your pipes. The first and most immediate issue is the peel's physical structure. A banana peel is not soft and yielding. It's incredibly fibrous and slippery, designed by nature to protect the fruit inside. When hit with the force of a toilet flush, it doesn't gracefully disintegrate. Instead, it tends to fold in on itself or wrap around other objects, creating a dense, pulpy mass. Its slick surface allows it to slide past the toilet's own trap easily, giving the flusher a false sense of success. The real trouble begins further down the line, in the larger household pipes. Here, the peel's tenacious fibers act like a net, catching onto any slight imperfection or existing buildup in the pipe walls. It becomes a trap itself, snagging other debris that comes along, bits of toilet paper, hairs, or even the granules from those so-called flushable wipes. Now, the process of decomposition, which the flusher was counting on to solve the problem, becomes the engine of the clog. Trapped in the warm, wet environment, the banana peel does begin to break down, but not in a helpful way. As it decomposes, it releases starches and sugars that make the accumulating mass even stickier and more glue-like. This sticky substance acts as a binding agent, cementing everything it has caught into a single, stubborn obstruction. This is how a single banana peel can become the nucleus of a major blockage, a dense, decaying plug that restricts water flow and eventually causes a complete backup. The first sign is often a toilet that drains slower than usual, followed by gurgling sounds from other drains in the house, a sure signal that a problem is growing deep within your home's plumbing arteries. The financial sting of this natural mistake can be sharp. What began as an attempt to avoid walking to the trash can easily end with a professional plumber's visit, involving motorized augers to snake the main drain line and clear the organic concrete you've accidentally created. The bill for this service can run into the hundreds of dollars, a high price to pay for a piece of fruit that cost mere cents. This story is a perfect example of the gap between our intentions and the reality of our infrastructure. The toilet is a precision system for managing human waste and toilet paper, not a compost bin for food scraps. That simple banana peel, so harmless in the open air, becomes a tangible reminder that nature's processes don't always align with the man-made systems we rely on every day. Few things are as essential to parental sanity as the humble pacifier, a tiny piece of silicone or rubber that can magically soothe a crying infant and grant a few precious moments of peace. It's this very indispensability that makes its loss so immediately devastating. The scenario is a familiar one in households with curious toddlers. A parent is momentarily distracted, perhaps during a diaper change, and a baby's quick, uncoordinated fling sends their beloved binky on a direct trajectory into the toilet bowl. The reaction is a mix of frustration and urgency. This isn't just a toy, it's a key tool in the emotional toolkit of both the child and the parent. In a moment of misguided haste, the thought process is tragically simple. The toilet is full of water, the pacifier is already in the water, so one quick flush will just make it all disappear, and we can simply get a new one. It feels like the fastest way to reset and move on from the minor crisis. This decision, however, is a classic case of a quick fix creating a much larger problem. A pacifier is not designed to navigate the complex architecture of home plumbing. Its often bulbous shape, complete with a handle or shield meant to prevent a baby from swallowing it, is the perfect plug for a narrow drain pipe. The powerful suction of the flush might pull it through the initial opening, but its journey is brutally short. It immediately becomes wedged in the toilet's trap, the U-bend designed to hold water. The shield acts like an anchor, catching on the sides, while the soft nipple can fold and contort in a way that creates an airtight seal. The immediate result is a toilet that refuses to drain, with water backing up ominously with every subsequent panicked attempt to flush it through. Now the parent is facing a dual crisis, a plumbing emergency and an emotional one. The child, confused by the sudden disappearance of their primary source of comfort, is likely escalating into full-blown hysterics, their cries echoing through a home that now also smells faintly of sewer gas. The desperation to restore order can lead to ill-advised amateur efforts with a plunger, which only serves to compact the pacifier further into its new home. The realization soon sets in that a professional is needed, adding the stress of an unexpected house call and a repair bill that can easily exceed $200 to retrieve an object that originally cost less than $5. But the true cost is measured in more than just dollars. That particular pacifier might have been the only one the child would accept, a specific shape or texture that became irreplaceable. The loss can trigger nights of lost sleep and heightened anxiety for the entire family until a suitable replacement is found. For the plumber on the other end of the call, this is a standard, if frustrating, job. The extraction process involves removing the entire toilet to physically pull the soggy, sorry-looking soother from the pipe, a humbling end for an object that once held so much power. This story perfectly captures the high-stakes chaos of parenting, where a split-second decision made under duress can turn a simple moment of cleanup into a costly lesson in patience and plumbing. It's a ritual performed countless times a day without a second thought, the simple act of washing your hands. You might be getting ready for work, preparing for a meal, or just freshening up, and as you lean over the sink, the unthinkable happens. The clasp on your wristwatch, perhaps not fully secured, gives way, or the watch itself slips from your grip as you go to dry your hands. In that split second, a valuable and often sentimental object makes a direct dive into the toilet bowl below. The immediate reaction is a unique blend of shock and disbelief, a frozen moment where you watch your watch, a device meant to measure time, seemingly vanish into a timeless void with one decisive push of the handle. The irony is almost poetic. An instrument of precision engineering, designed to track the very seconds of our lives with impeccable accuracy, is suddenly and irrevocably lost in less time than it takes to mark a single tick on its own dial. This isn't just about losing a functional tool. For many, a wristwatch is a piece of personal history. It might be a cherished gift marking a graduation, a promotion, or an anniversary. It could be a vintage heirloom passed down through generations, its scratches and scuffs telling a story far older than its owner. In a flash, that entire history is subjected to a corrosive cocktail of water, waste, and harsh cleaning chemicals, a horrifying thought that fuels a desperate and immediate rescue attempt. The financial stakes can be astonishingly high. While some might lose a simple digital timepiece, the stories that truly make plumbers and jewelers wince involve high-end mechanical watches. We're talking about luxury Swiss automatics from brands like Rolex, Omega, or Patek Philippe, timepieces that can be valued anywhere from several thousand to well over $100,000. These are not just devices, they are miniature marvels of mechanical art with hundreds of tiny, delicate gears, springs, and jewels working in perfect harmony. The moment such a watch is submerged, that harmony is shattered. Pressurized water forces its way into the case, instantly fogging the crystal and seizing the intricate movement. The salts, minerals, and other contaminants in the water begin a rapid process of corrosion that can etch and destroy the finely finished components within hours. Even if the watch is retrieved within moments, the damage is often catastrophic and irreversible. A standard watch might claim to be water-resistant, but that resistance is tested under controlled, clean water conditions, not the turbulent, contaminated environment of a flushing toilet. The cost of a professional restoration attempt on a high-end watch that has been through this ordeal can run into the thousands of dollars with no guarantee of success. More often than not, the movement is considered a total loss, requiring a complete and incredibly expensive rebuild using new parts. For the heartbroken owner, the loss is measured in more than just currency. It's the destruction of a legacy on their wrist, all because of one unguarded moment at the sink. This story serves as a sobering reminder that our most precious possessions are often most vulnerable during our most mundane routines, and that time, once lost down the drain, is the one thing we can never get back. Of all the everyday items that take an unexpected plunge, few are as universally relatable as the humble toothbrush. We've all had that moment of pre-coffee fumbling or a late-night slip of the hand, watching in slow motion as the tool we use to maintain our oral hygiene makes a direct dive into the very opposite of a clean environment. The instinct to immediately retrieve it is strong, but in that frantic, germ-averse moment, a terrible calculation is often made. The handle is pushed, not to dispose of the brush, but in the misguided hope that the powerful vortex will somehow cleanse the contaminated object, whisking it away to be replaced later. In other, more peculiar cases, a toothbrush's sturdy handle and abrasive bristles tempt someone into using it as a last-minute cleaning tool for the toilet itself, a decision that almost guarantees its eventual, intentional flush down the very bowl it was just scrubbing. This seemingly minor mistake, however, is a guaranteed recipe for a major plumbing headache, thanks to the toothbrush's diabolically effective design. While it feels light and harmless in your hand, its form is a perfect storm of clog-creating features. The long, rigid plastic handle is essentially a spear, and the bristled head is a wide, spiky anchor. The moment it enters the drain, it doesn't flow with the water, it becomes a projectile. The flush's suction might pull it through the initial opening, but its journey is brutally short. It immediately flips sideways, jamming the handle across the narrow diameter of the pipe, or catching the bristled head on any slight imperfection in the porcelain or PVC. In an instant, it transforms from a cleaning tool into the world's worst-shaped plug, creating an immediate and total blockage. What makes a toothbrush clog so uniquely frustrating is its stubborn refusal to break down or be moved. Unlike organic matter that might eventually soften, the hard plastic and nylon bristles are completely non-biodegradable. They are engineered for durability, to withstand months of vigorous scrubbing, and those same properties make them a permanent nightmare for your pipes. A standard plunger is utterly useless against it. The rubber cup cannot get a proper seal around the awkwardly lodged object, and the force only serves to wedge it more tightly into place, often cracking the delicate porcelain of the toilet's trapway in the process. This turns a simple retrieval job into a full-blown replacement project. The professional solution is as straightforward as it is messy. A plumber will typically have to remove the entire toilet from the floor to gain direct access to the pipe. Using a specialized retrieval tool, they grapple with the brush, often having to twist and pull with significant force to free its stubborn shape from the tight curve it's jammed in. The extraction reveals a sorry-looking specimen, a once proud instrument of dental care now coated in unthinkable filth. The repair bill for this retrieval can easily surpass $200, a staggering cost for an item that can be replaced for less than $5. This story serves as a perfect and expensive metaphor for misguided convenience, proving that the toilet is the one household fixture that should never, ever double as a kitchen drawer or a cleaning supply cabinet. While the idea of a snake or a rat emerging from the depths is enough to trigger a heart-pounding panic, there's something uniquely surreal about encountering a much smaller and often completely harmless amphibian staring back at you from the toilet bowl. This isn't a story of intentional disposal, but one of pure, bewildering intrusion. The scenario typically begins outdoors. A frog or toad is going about its business in a damp garden or near a pond when it encounters a broken sewer line or an uncapped plumbing vent pipe protruding from the ground. Driven by instinct to seek out cool, dark, and moist environments, the curious creature hops right in, embarking on an unexpected underground odyssey through a maze of pipes it mistakes for a natural creek bed or burrow. Its journey ends when it pops out into the bowl of a toilet, a porcelain oasis that is, from its perspective, just another small, contained body of water. The human reaction to this discovery is a complex cocktail of shock, revulsion, and a strange sense of wonder. It's a violation of a deeply private space, but by a creature that is more often associated with fairy tales and gardens than with filth and sewage. In that initial moment of startled surprise, the impulse to make the unexpected guest disappear can be overwhelming. the flush handle represents the fastest, most sterile-looking solution. The logic is tragically simple. Water is its habitat, so water will carry it back to its habitat. This leads to a quick, decisive push of the lever, an act of instant problem-solving that feels clean and final. This single decision, however, is a death sentence for the animal and a potential nightmare for the plumbing. A frog or toad is a living, breathing, and surprisingly resilient organism. The force of a standard toilet flush is not typically powerful enough to kill it instantly or carry it all the way through the system. Instead, the experience is one of prolonged trauma and almost certain drowning. The animal is subjected to a violent swirling current, followed by a terrifying journey through dark pipes filled with contaminated water and toxic chemicals. If it doesn't drown immediately, it will likely die a slow death from poisoning or physical injury, a profoundly inhumane outcome for a creature that was simply lost. From a practical standpoint, flushing is also a spectacularly bad plumbing decision. A frog's body, while soft, is a solid mass of organic matter. It can easily become lodged in the toilet's internal trap or further down the pipe, creating a disgusting and rapidly decomposing clog. The resulting backup will inevitably lead to a foul odor and require a professional to remove the unfortunate amphibian, now a biohazard, from the pipes. The bill for this service transforms a moment of startled panic into an expensive and unpleasant lesson. The far better and more compassionate solution requires nothing more than a moment of calm and a common kitchen item. Simply placing a large pot or a bucket over the frog in the bowl contains it completely without causing any harm. Then, a stiff piece of cardboard or a magazine can be carefully slid between the rim of the bowl and the bucket, creating a secure lid. The captured visitor can then be safely carried outside and released back into a suitable damp, shady area of the garden, far from any plumbing vents. This bizarre encounter serves as a gentle reminder that our modern infrastructure sometimes intersects with the natural world in the most unexpected ways, and that our first instinct doesn't have to be one of destruction. Choosing a moment of kindness over a flush of fear is better for the animal, your plumbing, and your own peace of mind. Now, imagine the gut-wrenching feeling of reaching for your wallet after a quick trip to the restroom, only to find a stark, rectangular outline on the back pocket of your jeans where your credit card should be. Your heart plummets as you retrace your movements, the horrifying realization dawning that it must have slipped out when you sat down, vanishing into the bowl without a sound. This isn't just an inconvenient loss, it's a direct line to financial vulnerability and identity theft, triggering a wave of pure, cold panic that's uniquely modern. The immediate impulse isn't to call a plumber. It's to freeze every transaction right now before a stranger on the other side of the city decides to test your card's limits with a shopping spree. The frantic scramble that follows is a digital age nightmare played out on a smartphone screen with trembling fingers. You're not just canceling a piece of plastic, you're racing against invisible criminals, dialing the 24/7 number on the back of a card you no longer physically possess. You're forced to navigate automated systems, desperately trying to prove your identity to a robot without your card number handy, all while the mental clock ticks on how quickly your information could be compromised. This is immediately followed by a cascade of other calls, because if one card was in that wallet, others likely were too, turning a single moment of carelessness into an hour of stressful damage control with your bank, your credit union, and any other institution tied to your financial life. The physical loss of the card itself is its own special kind of torture. Unlike a set of keys that might be fished out, a thin, plastic credit card is a master of hydrodynamic escape. Its flat, flexible design is practically engineered to sail through the toilet's trap and into the larger sewer line with ease, carried away on a swift current of water and waste. The odds of it getting stuck are vanishingly small, which means the chance of retrieval is essentially zero. It's gone, traveling through a dark, subterranean network that you cannot access, on a journey to a water treatment plant where it will be filtered out and destroyed, but not before it has inflicted its maximum amount of personal hassle. This makes the flushed credit card a uniquely frustrating entry on our list. There's no dramatic extraction story, no heroic plumber triumphantly holding up a retrieved prize. The loss is absolute and final, a clean break that leaves no room for hope. The cost is measured not in a plumbing bill, but in the quiet anxiety of waiting for a new card to arrive in the mail, the inconvenience of updating every automatic payment linked to the old number, and the lingering worry that your information is now floating through a system far beyond your control. It's a stark lesson in how our most valuable assets are often the most intangible, and how a single slip can connect the most private room in your house directly to the precarious world of your financial security. But no toy has ever achieved the legendary, almost mythical status of plumbing nightmare quite like the Cabbage Patch Kid. To understand why a doll could cause such legendary havoc, you have to remember the absolute frenzy these homely adoption certificate carrying dolls inspired in the 1980s. They weren't just toys, they were a cultural phenomenon, objects of such intense desire that parents camped out overnight and news channels reported on store riots. Each doll was meant to be a unique, cherished member of the family, but that very sense of individuality and emotional weight is what set the stage for some of the most dramatic and costly clogging stories in plumbing history. Because when a Cabbage Patch Kid's time came, it was never a simple disposal, it was an event. The scenarios that led to a flush were as dramatic as the dolls themselves. Perhaps a well-loved kid, after years of service, finally succumbed to its wounds, an arm torn off by the dog, its yarn hair hopelessly matted with grape juice, one of its signature freckled cheeks permanently stained. A well-intentioned parent, seeing the state of it and hoping to spare their child the trauma of a prolonged goodbye, might decide a swift, ceremonial burial at sea was the most compassionate option. In other, darker tales of sibling rivalry, an older brother or sister, seething with jealousy over the attention lavished on the new baby, would enact a chillingly deliberate revenge, sending their sibling's favorite doll on a one-way trip to the sewers, an act of domestic sabotage they could scarcely comprehend the consequences of. The moment of the flush was where the legend began. Unlike smaller action figures, the Cabbage Patch Kid was a behemoth. With its large, soft cloth body, solid vinyl head, and a surprising amount of stuffing, it was a formidable opponent for any plumbing system. The initial suction might pull the doll's body into the bowl, but its wide, round head would instantly become hopelessly lodged in the trap, creating a perfect, immovable seal. The result was an instantaneous and total blockage. Water would not just refuse to drain, it would often begin to bubble and gurgle ominously, a warning of the pressure building behind the doll plug. Subsequent flushes would cause the water to rise perilously close to the brim, a terrifying sight that signaled a problem far beyond the capabilities of a simple plunger. What followed was the stuff of parental nightmares and plumber's lore. The extraction of a Cabbage Patch Kid was never a simple job. Its cloth body would become waterlogged and incredibly heavy, swelling to further cement its position. A standard drain snake could potentially puncture the vinyl head, but would never be able to grip and retrieve the entire sodden mass. This almost always necessitated the nuclear option, removing the entire toilet from the floor. The plumber's arrival was met with a mix of hope and deep embarrassment, as parents had to explain that the cause of the household's plumbing catastrophe was in fact a doll named Buford or Chloe. The retrieval itself was a grotesque spectacle, the once cherished toy emerging from the depths, dripping with foulness, its signature smile now a ghastly parody, a horrifying mockery of its former cheerful self. The cost for this lesson in doll disposal was as legendary as the clogs themselves. In the 1980s, the bill for such a professional extraction could easily run into the hundreds of dollars, a staggering sum that often far exceeded the original cost of the doll itself. These stories spread through neighborhood gossip and became a cautionary tale whispered among parents, a modern fable about the dangers of emotional attachments meeting practical home maintenance. The flushed Cabbage Patch Kid transcended its status as a mere object. It became a part of American plumbing folklore, a symbol of how the most beloved and innocent things can, with one disastrous decision, transform into a costly, foul-smelling, and unforgettable monster lurking in the pipes. While the loss of car keys brings life to a temporary standstill, there's a special kind of panic reserved for the moment a full set of house keys disappears into the bowl. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a direct threat to the sanctity and security of your home. The scenario often unfolds with a tragic sort of clumsiness. You're getting ready to leave, your hands are full, and as you adjust your grip, the familiar jingle is followed by a single, definitive plunk. You watch in horror as the keyring, with its distinctive fob and the one worn key that opens your front door, settles at the bottom. The immediate thought isn't just about getting back inside. It's the chilling realization that a piece of your home's security is now potentially traveling through a public sewer system, completely unprotected. This triggers a desperate, two-pronged crisis. The first is the immediate logistical nightmare. You are now officially locked out. Your phone might be inside, your wallet could be on the counter, and your spare key is with a neighbor who won't be home for hours. You're stranded on the wrong side of your own front door, a profoundly vulnerable feeling that turns a simple mistake into a full-blown emergency. The second, and far more sinister, worry is the threat of a security breach. That key isn't just a piece of metal, it's a direct physical link to your most private space. The thought that it could be found by someone with ill intent, who could then trace it back to your address, is enough to cause genuine fear. This isn't about the cost of cutting a new key, it's about the cost of feeling safe in your own home. This potent mix of desperation and fear is what fuels some of the most extreme DIY plumbing attempts ever witnessed. The idea of calling a locksmith to drill out and replace an entire lock system is a last resort, an expense that can easily climb past $500. To avoid this, otherwise rational homeowners become determined amateur excavators. The toilet becomes ground zero for a high-stakes salvage operation. We're talking about turning off the water supply, disconnecting the toilet from the floor with whatever tools are on hand, and carrying the entire heavy fixture outside or into the bathtub to be turned upside down and shaken violently, all in a frantic hope to hear the glorious sound of metal hitting porcelain. If the keys have traveled beyond the toilet's own trap, the measures become even more drastic. Some have been known to remove sections of wall or floor to access the main waste pipe, a destructive and incredibly messy endeavor that trades one problem for several others. The irony is thick enough to cut with a key. In a desperate attempt to avoid the cost and hassle of a locksmith, people willingly embark on a project that could result in thousands of dollars in plumbing and drywall repairs. This frantic energy is a testament to how deeply we value our sense of security. The physical key itself is nearly worthless, but what it represents, our sanctuary, our privacy, our control over who enters our space, is priceless. The lengths we go to reclaim it, no matter how ill-advised, reveal a raw, instinctual drive to protect our home at any cost, even if that means temporarily destroying the bathroom in the process. Moving from the manufactured plastic of toys to the all-natural world of produce, we arrive at perhaps the most biologically bizarre item on our list, the humble tomato. It seems harmless enough, a simple piece of food waste. After finishing a salad or a sandwich, the core or a few spoiled fruits might seem like perfect candidates for a quick, watery disposal. The logic feels sound, it's soft, it's organic, it will just break down like everything else. But the tomato is a botanical powerhouse, and its journey through the sewer system is less about causing a clog and more about staging a hostile takeover from within, turning dark, inhospitable pipes into an unexpected garden of earthly delights. The initial flush is often uneventful. The soft flesh of the tomato offers little resistance, easily swept away by the current. The real trouble begins when that tomato reaches the wider, warmer environment of the municipal sewer main. Here, in the nutrient-rich soup of human waste and other organic matter, the tomato doesn't just decompose, it finds its perfect growing conditions. Trapped in a quiet junction or caught on a ledge, the tomato breaks down, releasing its countless tiny seeds. These seeds are evolutionary marvels designed to survive the digestive tracts of animals to spread and propagate. The warm, moist, and incredibly fertile environment of a sewer is, from a tomato seed's perspective, a 5-star nursery. What happens next is the stuff of surreal urban legend, but it's been documented by utterly baffled sewer maintenance crews around the world. Those seeds, finding all the water, heat, and nutrients they could ever need, begin to germinate. Delicate green shoots push out, feeling for a light source that will never come. In the absolute darkness, the plants grow pale and spindly, their stems stretching unnaturally in a desperate search for the sun. Without it, they cannot produce chlorophyll and will never bear fruit, but that doesn't stop them from trying. Workers have reported encountering ghostly, white vines snaking through the pipes, creating eerie, tangled webs of vegetation that can impede the flow of wastewater and clog grates and filters at treatment plants. These aren't just isolated, tiny plants. There are documented cases of fully formed tomato plants several feet long, thriving in the bowels of cities. Imagine the shock of a maintenance crew sent to investigate a reported blockage, who shine their lights into a pipe only to find it packed with the pale, leafy tendrils of a tomato plant that decided a sewer main was as good a place as any to put down roots. The removal of these biological blockages is a strange and messy task, part plumbing, part gardening. Crews have to carefully cut and pull the tenacious vines free, a job that combines the usual hazards of sewer work with the absurdity of harvesting a crop from the most unthinkable farm on earth. This phenomenon serves as a stunning reminder that life is relentlessly opportunistic, finding a way to flourish in the most hostile and unexpected environments. That simple act of flushing a tomato core isn't just disposing of food. It's inadvertently planting a seed in the richest, warmest compost bin imaginable. It's a testament to nature's stubborn will to grow, even when that growth occurs in a place of absolute darkness, fueled by the very waste we thought we had banished from our sight. The image of a pale, fruitless tomato plant stretching through a pipe is a powerful symbol of how our convenient solutions can have unintended and utterly strange consequences, creating a silent, secret garden blooming in the darkness beneath our feet. It seems almost too small to matter, a tiny silver disc smaller than a dime that you could easily mistake for a stray button. After changing the batteries in a hearing aid, the used one is often pinched between your fingers, a piece of trash so insignificant that walking to the kitchen garbage can feel like an unnecessary journey. The toilet is right there, a convenient chute that promises to make it vanish forever with one simple push. What harm could such a minuscule thing possibly do? This line of thinking, repeated by thousands of people every single day, creates an environmental hazard so concentrated and so persistent that it belies the battery's tiny size. That little metal pill is packed with a toxic payload, and its journey from the bathroom to the broader ecosystem is a story of chemical betrayal on a massive scale. The immediate danger begins the moment the battery gets wet. While still lodged in your home's pipes, the metal casing can start to corrode, especially when exposed to the various chemicals and minerals present in water and waste. Once that thin steel shell is compromised, the hazardous materials inside are free to leach out. The most common type of hearing aid battery is a zinc air button cell, and while modern versions are mercury-free, they still contain a cocktail of other heavy metals like zinc, copper, and silver, all suspended in a highly alkaline electrolyte paste. This isn't just harmless junk, it's a potent, corrosive chemical mixture that is now directly seeping into the water flowing through your plumbing, a silent contamination event happening inside your own walls. But the real crisis unfolds if the battery makes it through your home's system and into the municipal wastewater treatment plant. These facilities are engineering marvels designed to filter out solid waste, break down organic matter with bacteria, and purify water, but they are not equipped to handle a constant, insidious stream of heavy metals. The filtering screens are too coarse to catch something so small, so the batteries often sail right through into the settling tanks. Here, buried in the nutrient-rich sludge, the corrosive process accelerates. The heavy metals don't break down, they simply bleed out, poisoning the very bacterial cultures that are essential for the treatment process. This can disrupt the plant's delicate biological balance, reducing its efficiency and increasing the cost of cleaning our water for everyone. The most devastating outcome occurs when this contaminated sludge, now laced with zinc and other metals, is finally discharged. In many communities, treated wastewater is released back into local rivers, lakes, and oceans. Those heavy metals hitch a ride, entering the aquatic environment where they begin a process called bioaccumulation. They are absorbed by algae and plankton, the very foundation of the food web. Small fish eat the plankton, and the concentration of toxins increases in their bodies. Larger fish then eat the smaller fish, magnifying the concentration of poison each step up the chain. This isn't a hypothetical danger. Studies have consistently found elevated levels of zinc and other battery-derived metals in fish and shellfish, a direct threat to marine life and to any human who consumes them. The alternative path for treated sewage sludge is just as concerning. This nutrient-dense material is often repurposed as agricultural fertilizer, spread over fields to grow our food. When that fertilizer is contaminated with heavy metals from batteries, those toxins are taken up by the roots of crops or simply remain in the soil, creating a direct pathway to our dinner plates and posing a long-term risk to soil health. The scale of this problem is immense. While exact numbers are impossible to pin down, wastewater officials estimate that millions of these tiny batteries are flushed in the United States every year. Each one is a tiny time bomb of toxicity, and together they represent a massive, decentralized pollution event that is incredibly difficult to track or stop at its source. The solution, thankfully, is stunningly simple and rests entirely in our hands. That used hearing aid battery should never be treated as regular trash, let alone flushed. Instead, it should be recycled. Major battery manufacturers and many hearing aid retailers offer free, convenient mail-in recycling programs. All it takes is a small postage-paid envelope. You simply collect your used batteries over a few months, drop them in the envelope, and mail them off. They are then processed at specialized facilities where the valuable metals are recovered and reused, and the hazardous components are safely contained and disposed of. This small act, taking just a few seconds of thought, is a direct line to protecting our water, our soil, and our health. It's a powerful reminder that the smallest objects often carry the greatest responsibility, and that true convenience should never come at the cost of our planet's well-being. From the toxic journey of a tiny battery, we now turn to an object so common it seems almost ridiculous to imagine it causing any trouble at all: a simple sock. We've all experienced the mystery of the missing sock, that lone survivor of the laundry cycle that seems to vanish into thin air. But sometimes that disappearance has a far more literal and disastrous explanation. The path to a porcelain plunge often begins with the innocent chaos of a household chore. Imagine pulling a wet, heavy load of laundry from the washing machine. As you transfer the sopping mass into a basket, a single sock clinging to the inside rim of the washer's drum goes unnoticed. It's only when you get to the bathroom to clean the laundry basket itself that the sock finally dislodges, falling directly into the toilet with a soft, almost silent plop. In other scenarios, the culprits are far smaller and their motives purely experimental. A curious toddler fascinated by the swirling water of a freshly flushed toilet might see it as the perfect whirlpool for a bath time toy. In their tiny hands, a colorful sock becomes a makeshift boat or a curious creature to be sent on a grand adventure. The act isn't one of malice or even disposal. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated childhood curiosity, a scientific experiment conducted with the most convenient water source available. With a gleeful push of the handle, they launch their textile submarine into the unknown, utterly unaware of the subterranean drama about to unfold. What happens next is a masterclass in how soft, flexible objects become plumbing's most deceptive villains. Unlike a hard toy that jams immediately, a wet sock is initially compliant. The powerful suction of the flush easily pulls it through the toilet's trap and into the larger drain pipe. This is where the illusion of success ends and the real nightmare begins. The interior of drain pipes, especially in older homes, is never perfectly smooth. It's a landscape of mineral scale buildup, rough weld seams in cast iron, and tiny cracks in clay or PVC. The sock, now a sodden, fibrous mass, immediately acts like a navigational anchor, catching on the first microscopic imperfection it encounters. This is where a single sock stops being a single sock and transforms into the nucleus of a monster. Its porous, woven fabric acts like a net, instantly beginning to collect all the other debris flowing past it: strands of hair, globs of toothpaste, soap scum, and especially the microscopic fibers from other laundry and toilet paper. Each pass of water and waste adds another layer, binding the mass together with a grim, glue-like consistency. This conglomerate grows slowly at first, then with increasing speed, gradually narrowing the pipe's diameter and restricting flow. The first sign of trouble is often the most misleading: a toilet that drains just a little slower than usual, a slight gurgle in a nearby sink. It's easy to ignore, written off as a minor quirk of an old house. But this is a silent, growing avalanche. Within days or weeks, that initial sock has become the heart of a massive, solid blockage known as a ragberg. Unlike a fatberg, which is primarily congealed grease, a ragberg is a dense, matted plug of textiles and debris that is almost impossible to penetrate. By the time the problem becomes undeniable, with toilets refusing to drain and wastewater backing up into showers, the clog is often deep within the main sewer line, far beyond the reach of any plunger or consumer-grade auger. The professional solution is as brutal as the clog itself. Plumbers often have to use a heavy-duty motorized drain snake with a specialized blade attachment designed to literally shred the fibrous mass apart so it can be flushed through, a loud, violent, and expensive process. If that fails, the only option is excavation, digging up the yard to physically access and replace the section of poisoned pipe, a repair that can cost thousands of dollars. That lone, missing sock, born from a moment of laundry day distraction or a child's wonder, ultimately reveals a profound truth about our plumbing. It's a system where softness can be stronger than steel, and where the smallest, most innocent acts can create the most formidable and expensive blockages. In the grand, imaginary battles waged on bathroom tile and linoleum, the plastic army man is a timeless foot soldier, a green symbol of childhood strategy and adventure. These tiny troops, with their rigid stances, protruding rifles, and helmets brimming with intricate detail, are designed for one thing: conquering living room carpets and sandbox beaches. But in the heat of a particularly intense campaign, the bathroom can become a new theater of war, and the toilet bowl transforms into a treacherous swamp, a river to be crossed, or even a whirlpool of doom for a captured enemy combatant. The decision to send a platoon on a watery mission is made with the gravity of a five-star general, a tiny hand launching its forces into the great unknown to see if they can survive the epic journey. The physics of this deployment, however, are a catastrophic miscalculation from the very first second. While an army man is minuscule, its design is a masterclass in creating the perfect plumbing obstruction. Unlike a smooth, round marble that might theoretically roll through a pipe, This toy is a collection of hard edges, sharp angles, and protruding parts. The moment it hits the water and the flush is activated, its fate is sealed. The powerful suction might pull it through the opening of the trapway, but its journey is brutally short. The soldier will inevitably flip sideways, its solid plastic rifle, backpack, or base catching on the slightest imperfection in the porcelain or pipe. It becomes a perfect, immovable keystone, lodged in the narrowest point of the toilet's internal architecture, a lone sentinel forever guarding the U-bend. What makes a plastic army man such a formidable opponent is its unyielding construction. This isn't a doll that might bend or a fruit that will soften. This is solid, injection-molded PVC plastic. A standard plunger is utterly useless against it. The rubber cup cannot compress the unyielding object, and the force only serves to wedge it more tightly into its new fortified position. A parent's desperate attempt to fish it out with a wire coat hanger often results in scratching the toilet's surface or, worse, pushing the soldier just far enough to clear the toilet's own trap but sending it down into the larger waste pipe in the wall or floor. This doesn't solve the problem, it merely relocates and escalates the conflict, transforming a simple toilet clog into a full-bore household plumbing emergency. The real terror begins if that lone soldier manages to make it past the home's defenses and into the vast municipal sewer system. Here, it joins a river of other waste, but its battle is far from over. These tiny toys are relentless. Their small size allows them to bypass initial screens at wastewater treatment plants, where they then face a new kind of barrage. They are tossed and tumbled through grinding pumps and filters designed to macerate organic matter. But a plastic army man doesn't macerate, it endures. The brutal mechanical forces can break off a rifle or a limb, but the main body remains intact, now a smaller, sharper projectile. These plastic shards and whole figures accumulate in the gears and impellers of crucial pumping machinery, causing wear, tear, and catastrophic failures that can shut down entire sections of a treatment plant. Municipal workers tell stories of opening up clogged pumps during routine maintenance only to find a bizarre, gritty sediment of hundreds of these tiny green soldiers, mixed with grease and debris, having waged a silent war against multi-million-dollar infrastructure. The cost of these repairs, from a simple household plumbing visit to an industrial-scale pump overhaul, is astronomically disproportionate to the value of the 50-cent toy that started it all. This story transforms a simple childhood game into a stark lesson in unintended consequences. That tiny act of imagination, sending a soldier on a mission, echoes far beyond the bathroom, a reminder that our smallest choices can sometimes mobilize a chain of events that ultimately requires a very real and very expensive counterattack. Of all the bizarre items that find their way into our plumbing, few seem as innocently baffling as the common potato. It's the ultimate comfort food, a staple of dinner plates across the country. So what could possibly drive someone to discard it via the bathroom instead of the kitchen trash? The motivations are as varied as the potato's own preparations. Perhaps it's a single raw spud that's begun to sprout eerie tendrils in the pantry, and in a moment of lazy disgust, the toilet presents itself as a quicker disposal method than a trip to the outdoor compost bin. In other cases, it might be the remnants of a meal, a lump of leftover mashed potatoes, or a few overcooked boiled chunks, scraped directly from a plate into the bowl to avoid soiling the kitchen garbage. The logic feels almost sound in that instant. It's just food, it will break down. But this humble tuber is a silent saboteur, and its journey through the pipes is a masterclass in biological and chemical warfare against modern infrastructure. The initial flush is often deceptively smooth. The potato, whether raw or cooked, seems to vanish without a trace, giving the flusher a false sense of victory. But the real trouble begins the moment it leaves the toilet's immediate vicinity. A raw potato is incredibly dense and hard, essentially a solid, water-filled rock. Instead of traveling gracefully, it tends to tumble and lodge itself in a sharp turn of the pipe, acting like a dam that immediately begins catching other debris. A cooked potato, on the other hand, is a soft, starchy bomb waiting to detonate. As it journeys through the warm pipes, it begins to break down, but not in a helpful way. The heat and moisture cause the potato's cells to release their stored starch, creating a thick, glue-like paste that surrounds the main body of the vegetable. This is where a single potato transforms from a simple obstruction into the nucleus of a plumbing supervillain. That starchy slurry acts as a powerful adhesive, binding together everything it encounters. It captures passing toilet paper, clumps of hair, dental floss, and the microscopic fibers from flushed wipes, wrapping them all into a single, cohesive mass. With each subsequent flush from the household, more water and material push against this growing blockage, further compacting it into a substance with the consistency of concrete. What began as one misplaced spud becomes a hardened, nearly impenetrable plug deep within the sewer line, a monolithic barrier that resists all but the most aggressive professional tools. The telltale signs of a potato-induced catastrophe are slow to appear but unmistakable. The first clue is often a toilet that drains with a reluctant, gurgling hesitation, followed by similar sluggishness in nearby sinks and showers. This is the sound of your entire home's wastewater struggling to find a path around the obstruction. If left unaddressed, the situation escalates to a complete backup, with sewage having nowhere to go but back up into the lowest drains in the house, typically a basement shower or floor drain. The resulting mess is not just water, it's a foul-smelling, starchy, pulpy soup that now floods the home, a direct and disgusting consequence of that one seemingly harmless decision. For the professional plumber arriving on the scene, the diagnosis often comes from the story. A homeowner might mention disposing of some food waste, and the unique tenacity of the clog points to a starchy culprit. The battle to remove it is a physical one. A standard drain auger or snake might not be enough. The potato's solid core can simply deflect the spinning head of the auger. Often, a much more powerful tool called a hydrojetter is required. This device blasts water through the pipes at extremely high pressure, essentially using a focused torrent to erode and blast the starchy concrete apart piece by piece. The process is loud, messy, and can take hours, turning a simple service call into a major operation with a bill that perfectly reflects the effort, often soaring well past $1,000. The potato, a symbol of humble sustenance, thus reveals its dark side, proving that even the most basic elements of our diet can become agents of chaos when introduced into a system they were never designed to navigate. Of all the personal items that can make a surprise appearance in a plumbing crisis, few carry the unique blend of sheer embarrassment and stubborn mechanical defiance quite like a pair of underwear. This isn't a story of childish curiosity or a simple accident. It's a tale often rooted in teenage panic, a desperate attempt to make a problem vanish without a trace. Imagine a teenager who's gotten a stain on their underwear, perhaps from a period accident or a spilled drink, and is gripped by the sudden, terrified thought of a parent discovering it in the laundry hamper. In that moment of pure social anxiety, the toilet doesn't look like a plumbing fixture. It looks like a magic portal, a convenient incinerator that promises absolute discretion with one push of a handle. The logic is driven by fear, not reason, and the consequences are both immediate and humiliating. The physics of this endeavor are doomed from the start. Underwear, particularly when made of cotton or synthetic blends, is a plumbing predator. It's designed to be absorbent and durable, two qualities that are the absolute antithesis of what you want in a flushable object. The moment the flush is activated, the powerful suction pulls the garment into the bowl. For a second, it seems like it might work. The underwear disappears from view. But its journey is brutally short. The fabric instantly soaks up water, becoming incredibly heavy and expanding in mass. It then meets the toilet's trap, the U-shaped pipe designed to hold water. Here, the elastic waistband acts as a perfect anchor, snagging on the sides, while the sodden body of the garment billows out, creating a perfect, watertight seal that no amount of plunging can dislodge. What follows is a silent, escalating household drama. The toilet will refuse to drain, and any attempt to flush again causes the water to rise perilously close to the rim. The teenager, now facing a problem infinitely more discoverable than the original stain, might try frantic, amateur solutions, coat hangers, desperate plunging, even harsh chemical drain cleaners that do nothing but damage the pipes. The inevitable confession to a parent is a masterpiece of awkwardness, a perfect storm of personal embarrassment meeting practical home maintenance failure. When the professional plumber arrives, the diagnosis is often swift. They've seen it all before. The extraction process almost always involves removing the entire toilet from the floor to physically reach into the pipe and pull out the offending garment, now a heavy, dripping, and utterly ruined mass of fabric that tells a very clear and very embarrassing story. The financial sting is the final blow in this comedy of errors. The cost for a professional to remove the toilet, extract the underwear, reseal it, and test for leaks can easily run between $200 and $400, a monumental price to pay for a moment of panic over a piece of clothing that might have cost $10. This story transcends a simple clog. It's a rite of passage, a collision between the intense self-consciousness of adolescence and the unforgiving reality of physics. It serves as a lasting, expensive lesson that some problems can't be flushed away. They only get bigger, wetter, and far more expensive the moment you try. And so we arrive at the final, and perhaps most poetic, entry on our list of flushed fiascos, the humble rubber duck. This cheerful, sun-yellow bath time companion seems like the most harmless of objects, a symbol of childhood innocence and splashy fun. It's this very innocence that makes its journey to the porcelain abyss so strangely poignant. The scenario is a familiar one in households with small children. Bath time concludes, and in the wet, chaotic transfer from tub to towel, a beloved duck is accidentally knocked from the edge of the tub, making a direct plunge into the toilet. Or perhaps in a toddler's mind, the toilet presents itself as a secondary swimming pool, a new and exciting body of water to launch a nautical expedition. With a gleeful push, the duck is sent on its maiden voyage, a journey from which there is no return. The moment the flush is activated, this icon of buoyancy becomes an engine of blockage. A rubber duck is the absolute antithesis of a hydrodynamic object. Its wide, rounded bottom and hollow air-filled interior are designed for one thing: floating. When subjected to the powerful downward suction of a toilet, it doesn't dive gracefully, it fights back. The flush's vortex attempts to pull it under, but the duck's natural tendency is to pop back up. This creates a chaotic battle between physics and plumbing, often resulting in the toy getting violently yanked sideways into the toilet's narrow trapway. Here, its rigid plastic bill or its wide, smiling face becomes a perfect plug, sealing the pipe with a cheerful, ironic finality. The immediate result is a toilet that refuses to drain, the water stubbornly high as if the duck is still bobbing on the surface, only now it's trapped in a prison of its own making, 1 foot below. For professional plumbers, the rubber duck is more than just a nuisance, it's a fundamental symbol. In fact, the industry has an unofficial test for the effectiveness of a toilet's flush, colloquially known as the rubber duck test. They literally use these toys to see if a model has enough power to evacuate a solid, buoyant object. The fact that most residential toilets fail this test spectacularly tells you everything you need to know about why they cause such frequent clogs. When a plumber arrives and hears the story of a missing bath toy, they know exactly what they're dealing with. The extraction is a familiar ritual, removing the toilet, reaching into the trap, and pulling out a once joyful toy now dripping and forlorn, its squeaker silent, its mission of fun tragically aborted. But the story of the flushed rubber duck transcends this simple clog. It serves as a perfect, almost metaphorical conclusion to our entire journey through the weirdest things Americans flush. The rubber duck represents pure, unadulterated accident. There's no malice, no bizarre experimental logic, no attempt to hide evidence. It is, at its heart, a simple mistake born from the chaos of daily life with children. It's a reminder that our plumbing disasters aren't always born from stupidity or desperation. Sometimes they're just born from life happening. That bright yellow duck stuck in the dark is a little symbol of all our own fumbles and missteps, our own moments where a simple slip leads to a disproportionately large problem. It's a strangely humbling and unifying image. After all, who among us hasn't felt a little like that duck, sometimes caught in a powerful current we didn't anticipate, fighting to stay afloat in a situation that seems determined to pull us under? So the next time you see one of these cheerful bath toys, give it a little respect. It's not just a piece of plastic, it's a veteran of the porcelain wars, a silent witness to our most private moments of panic, and a perfect, buoyant emblem of the fact that sometimes the weirdest things we flush are also the most human. From tiny hearing aid batteries to entire rotisserie chickens, the journey through America's plumbing has revealed a stunning catalogue of human error, curiosity, and sometimes sheer desperation. We've seen how a child's innocent experiment with a toy soldier can escalate into a municipal crisis, and how a moment of panic over a stained garment can lead to a repair bill that eclipses a year's worth of laundry. The most common culprits remain the usual suspects, so-called flushable wipes, which are anything but, along with cotton swabs and dental floss, which together form the tangled backbone of most household clogs. But the truly outrageous items, the dentures, the watches, the whole potatoes, these are the ones that truly capture our imagination, revealing a universal truth about our relationship with the toilet. We see it as a magical portal, a convenient void where our problems can vanish with the simple push of a lever, a silent servant that asks no questions. This is a profound misunderstanding of a complex and fragile system. Our plumbing is not a black hole. It is a network of narrow pipes that lead somewhere, to treatment facilities and workers who have to deal with the consequences of our whims. The behaviors that lead to these mistakes are deeply human. A desire for convenience, a moment of distracted panic, the wish to avoid embarrassment, or simply a childlike wonder about where the water goes. We've all been there, standing over that bowl, weighing a bad decision against a trip to the trash can. The practical advice is simple, yet it bears repeating because the consequences are so consistently expensive and unpleasant. The only things that should ever enter that bowl are human waste and toilet paper. That's it. Everything else, from the smallest Q-tip to the most beloved toy, belongs in the trash or the recycling bin. Treat your toilet with the respect this vital piece of infrastructure deserves, and you will save yourself not only hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, but also a truly unforgettable moment of regret. Now we want to hear from you. This collection is just the beginning. What's the most bizarre thing you or someone you know has ever sent on a one-way trip? Share your own plumbing horror stories and tales of flushed fortunes in the comments below. Your story might just be the one that makes us all gasp, laugh, and look at our bathrooms with a whole new level of caution and wonder.